Hello, role-playing people, and in this episode we're taking a look at the lore of the Fundament, one of the two common lores that Fallen can evoke. This one encompasses the principles or rules according to which the physical universe was created, and in the words of Morpheus, some rules can be bent, others can be broken in the world of Demon. While this is a common lore, and thus it will never serve as anyone's primary, we will see it allows for some pretty impressive feats and great freedom of movement, though the higher levels really lose their shine and aren't explained very well. But let's have a look at the first dot. Manipulate gravity. The demon can alter the way gravity affects her body, allowing her to leap enormous distances, hang suspended in the air, or plunge at her foes like a meteorite. System: roll strength plus athletics. The demon can leap up to 20 yards per success or fall a similar distance without suffering injury. Completely cancelling the effects of gravity requires a number of successes equal to the character's stamina. Characters who defy gravity aren't weightless per se, they are still affected by outside forces as normal. The effects of this evocation last for a single turn. Torment. Monstrous demons who perform this evocation leave a wash of turbulence in their wake, randomly increasing or decreasing the effects of gravity on surrounding objects or people who pass within a number of yards equal to the demon's torment score. The storyteller is free to use her discretion when describing the chaotic effects that occur in the monster's passing. Let me just say right off the bat, finally, the first dot power that allows characters to do amazing matrix jumps from one building to the next, or provided they have enough successes to temporarily keep gravity from affecting them at all, they can just rapidly float up the side of a building and land safely on the roof. I love this evocation. It can help the character ambush someone from a cover that is quite some distance away. It can cancel fall damage if it's within success range. It can help the character escape melee attackers, probably prevent any range damage too, as the protagonist leaps, 20 yards per success in a single turn? Like, try hitting that moving target. Now, the mention that characters who defy gravity aren't weightless per se, they are still affected by outside forces as normal, I find it ambiguous. Which exactly are these outside forces? I doubt any mortal is going to poke a levitating celestial away like a balloon. But hey. Now, the high torment power works just the same, but the character perturbs gravity within a range equal to their torment, so we can assume it's at least 3 yards at the start of the game. This, in say a crowded underground parking lot, means cars start floating away and crash back down hard. People carrying their groceries can't move. Their bags suddenly pull them to the ground, that is, if they themselves aren't simply crushed into the pavement as their weight increases from the gravity, or helplessly float around as gravity stops affecting them. So narratively, this can create an amazing scene, especially if the antagonist uses the high torment version to escape and leaves the protagonists to pick up the pieces and sort out his mess. This is amazing, both to players and to storytellers. I love this one. Okay, next dot. Manipulate adhesion. The demon can affect her body's adhesion to physical objects. She can run up walls, hang from the ceiling, or cling to the side of a moving car like a spider. System: roll dexterity plus athletics. The difficulty is determined by the angle of the surface relative to the earth. Running up a steep slope is difficulty 6, while a vertical surface is 7. Moving along an inverted plane, like a ceiling, is difficulty 8. The character can move up to 3 yards along such surface per success rolled. The effects of this evocation last for a single turn. Torment. When a monstrous demon performs this evocation, the surfaces with which she interacts are warped by her passing, causing them to radiate waves of intense heat and leave patterns of the demon's hands and feet on the surface. Individuals coming in contact with these surfaces in the same turn as the demon touched them suffer 1 level of lethal damage. Okay, my first question is, does this work through clothing? or is it only the body's adhesion to physical objects? Now, I'm not a fan of this one, mainly because the first evocation already covers so much distance, and as much as I love the image of a demonic entity crawling on the side of an empty subway car, and just as the protagonists catch a glimpse of this horror through the filthy window, bam, it smashes through and ambushes them. Pretty cool, but it still only lasts for one round. As opposed to one turn, a round is over once all of the participants have acted. So interestingly enough, you can still use this evocation to put your character out of harm's way as they crawl on the ceiling and remain there for the rest of the round, out of melee range. The High Torment version is great for storytellers to use on their monstrous NPCs. Maybe the protagonists are investigating a location and they find handprints just burnt and blackened into certain surfaces. Or maybe an antagonist who can't control fire like the devils do actually uses this lore to warp and burn living things, because nowhere does it say the surface affected can't be a living thing, right? So maybe a tormented fallen would actually use this to brand its thralls, leaving its own fingerprints burnt into their flesh. Also, outside of combat, a round can last as long as the storyteller wants. Duration can vary. So if the players want to use this one to scale a building or wait above a doorway to ambush someone, dropping on them from the ceiling, they should do that, because they are focusing on this evocation alone outside of the stress of combat. I would totally let players take their time with this one. I think one round is definitely too short. Third dot. Manipulate inertia. The demon can affect the inertia of anything she touches, stopping it dead or granting it irresistible force. She can snatch projectiles out of the air, provided she can see them, or throw an object further away than any human could imagine. System. Roll dexterity plus athletics. The demon can throw an object up to 30 yards per success rolled, regardless of her strength. Snatching a projectile out of the air requires rolling a number of successes equal to or greater than the projectile's damage dice. For example, a thrown knife inflicts strength plus 1 damage. If the person throwing the knife has a strength of 3, you must roll 4 or more successes for your character to catch the knife. Your demon has to be able to see the projectile to affect it. Rocks, knives, even arrows are possible candidates, but bullets aren't. If your demon throws a projectile at a target, each extra success achieved becomes an automatic level of damage. The effects of this evocation last for a single turn. Torment. Items affected by a monstrous demon become inherently unstable for a period of time, creating potential for disaster for the next person who tries to use them. For a period of turns equal to the character's torment, any item that was the focus of this evocation causes a botch on a rolled 1, 2, or 3 when used for any reason. Okay, my immediate question is it enough to see the projectile to stop it, or do you have to touch it? Also, does the object need to be in motion when touched, or can the character just use this on an object before it is set into motion? I really don't know my physics, so and I imagine not a lot of players do. So a bit more explanation would have helped a lot. Luckily, I can just look up inertia and with a bit of patience understand what it does. Now, I really dislike how the writers insisted on catching knives out of the air. Look, if there's a knife coming my way, I'll probably dodge, okay? But, offensively, if you can throw a bowling ball just as far as you can throw a tennis ball while using the same strength, right? That is amazing. If all it takes is picking it up, having enough strength to pick it up before you can throw it, say a mini fridge for 30 yards per success at a strength of 1, that is amazing. The High Torment version is also to my liking, since you can effectively create traps. Imagine someone getting into their car, which you've recently touched with the high torment version of this evocation, and as they start the engine and hopefully roll a botch on their drive, the car goes backward instead of the way it should, right? It goes backward really, really fast instantly and just hits someone. Or the car wants to take off, but the wheels are rotating at different speeds. Oh, that's bound to mess up a few things. More vehicular examples, why not? Being able to take perfect corners without skidding, regardless of the speed you're going at. Being able to come to instant stop, even if you're going at breakneck speeds. From my point of view, this is what the lore should be about, you know, awesome physics stuff, not just snatching knives out of the air. More explanations as to what actually happens during the use of this lore and how inertia works and interacts with other forces would have been greatly appreciated, as opposed to just describing the effect, right? Like, oh, you can now snatch knives out of the air. Well, moving on. Manipulate acceleration. The demon can affect the acceleration of her own body, granting her supernatural speed and force. System. Spend 1 faith point and roll dexterity plus athletics. Each success allows your demon to walk up to 10 yards per success per turn, jog 20 yards per success, or run 40 yards per success per turn. If used in combat, treat these successes as automatic levels of damage for hand-to-hand, melee, or ranged attacks using thrown weapons. These damage levels can be split among multiple targets if desired. The effects of this evocation last for a single turn. Torment. The acceleration of a monstrous demon so disturbs the air around her that she is surrounded by an aura of blistering heat that radiates out a number of yards equal to the character's torment score. Living beings caught within the area of effect suffer 1 level of bashing damage. Okay, this one I really like. I really like this flash style burst of speed, 40 yards per success, and the high torment aura of blistering heat, which I would have said deals lethal damage, but again, you can tell the people working on this didn't really explain how or why this works the way it does. For example, what does granting her supernatural speed and force means? What does it mean? Does that mean acceleration to maximum velocity is instant? How does that affect mass, the very inertia we were talking about previously? How do I narrate what is happening? I looked it up and there are a lot of forces at work when somebody is running. And make no mistake, lores are superpowers that celestial beings used when creating the universe, right? They're supposed to be mysterious, no doubt. This is a game, not a physics seminar. But I really wish the descriptions weren't so ambiguous and the rules weren't just cool effects that happen because they're cool. See, what does the acceleration of a monstrous demon so disturbs the air around her? What does that mean? Does it mean that friction is affected by the demon's torment and causes so much thermal agitation that the air starts heating up? Again, I really don't know physics, but that's precisely why the writing here could have been a bit clearer and more helpful so we can understand just how we can use this ability and how to describe it in use, how to turn mechanics into narration that makes sense. So I like what the power does, I just don't understand why it works this way, and not knowing how this works is really not the way of an architect of reality. It doesn't fit the theme of the lore. Alright, last dot. Manipulate cohesion. The demon can manipulate the state of any inanimate matter she touches. She can walk on water or air or break down solid objects into their component particles. System. The demon must be able to physically touch the matter she wishes to affect. Spend 1 faith point and roll stamina plus science. The difficulty depends on the matter involved and the degree to which it is affected. Changing water to ice or steam is difficulty 6. Increasing the cohesion of water or air to the degree that it briefly supports the demon's weight is difficulty 7. Vaporizing wood, cloth, or other low-density material is difficulty 8, while doing the same to high-density material such as metal or stone is difficulty 9. Each success allows the demon to affect 1 cubic foot of matter. The effects of this evocation last for a single turn, after which the materials affected return to normal or remain in their current state if it's natural for the material in question. Living beings targeted with this effect suffer a health level damage for each success gained on the roll. Torment. Matter affected by a monstrous demon remains inherently unstable for a number of turns equal to the character's torment, changing states at random. The storyteller is free to use her discretion when describing the chaotic effects that occur in the wake of the demon's manipulation. I really like this power. I like that it can affect living beings, 1 lethal damage per success, except I would have ruled this to be the high torment effect, right? The ability to hurt the very beings you were programmed to love as you tear them apart atom by atom. The high torment description as it is, it's just chaotic and suggests lack of control without any clear reason why. I mean, all other evocations of this lore work just fine, even with high torment, though they get a destructive or disruptive little side effect. But here, I feel like the randomness ruins the functionality of this power completely. If you can't count on the resulting state of the object, then you can't count on this evocation. It's that simple. What about walking through walls, right? Mobility is supposed to be the core of this lore, so high torment kills that too. Also, what annoys me further is the duration. Again, lasts for 1 turn. Why? 1 turn is not enough to walk on air or water when you can just leap enormous distances using the first dot, right? 1 turn isn't enough to liquefy a dagger and put it in a plastic bottle to ambush someone later with it while pretending to hydrate. The power has so much potential, as characters can vaporize and liquefy or solidify anything temporarily. Imagine slipping a liquid wooden stake inside someone's drink and it solidifies inside of the victim. Alright, that is scary. That is an offensive use of this power. Makes people go like, whoa, how did this guy swallow a wooden stake that tore his body apart from the inside and killed him without so much as a scratch visible from the outside? See, but setting this up requires more than a turn. And what's worse is the touch rule means you can't even liquefy your attacker's weapons before they charge and swing at you if you're not already in their range, because you have to touch their weapon. So can you use this in combat? Not really. Can you use this for mobility? Not really. The other evocations do that a lot better. Can you use it to create interesting little traps and use the power creatively as your character, an architect of reality, manipulates cohesion of things around them? No, it only lasts for 1 turn. Eugh. Now that we've gone through all of the dots, I really think every troupe should tailor this lore to their own needs. If a player wants to do something really smart with this, I'd allow it. Rules be damned. Just score me a few successes and let's have an awesome moment. As a default homebrew, if we can call it that, I'd rule that the character can affect any inanimate object without needing to touch it within a range equal to their faith rating in yards. And thus, they can transfer powers like manipulate inertia onto another character's projectile, and they can use manipulate cohesion in many more ways. To affect animate objects, though, I'd say touch is always required. I'd further say the duration of this power can be extended by spending a temporary point of either faith or willpower, but indeed the effects can never be permanent. Now, it's very unlikely that a player character will use anything beyond the 3rd dot throughout the course of a short game, since XP points wouldn't be sufficient. But we can clearly see this lore as a common lore is an add-on to a character's supernatural arsenal. It's not the main event. Also, comparing the descriptions of each dot to, say, those in Vampire the Masquerade, we can see the descriptions are too brief and don't really explain what is happening. They only point out to the awesome mechanical effects without really giving us the narrative logic behind these effects, and this can put both players and storytellers in difficulty. So I do believe the writers should have insisted on this. As opposed to saying very ambiguous things like supernatural speed and force, which force, or treat each success as an automatic level of damage. Okay, what does each success actually represent narratively? Or she can snatch projectiles out of thin air. Yes, okay, that's what it looks like from the outside. How does it actually work? Because you see, player characters might teach these powers to one another. So knowing how they work, especially since this is the common lore of the Fundament, it's the very core of how physical matter interacts, it's important. You can't just say, convert successes into damage, because that's rules talk, not storytelling, and it breaks immersion instead of helping it, and instead of keeping the internal logic of the game consistent. To conclude, I like this lore from the narrative perspective. I like what it affords the characters to do, especially the very first dot. It's great. But I think both the writing and the rules make the uses either too limited or too ambiguous. A few minor tweaks would have allowed for much more creative uses of these evocations. Luckily, they are not the main event when it comes to demon lores, since this is but one of the two common lores. Thank you very much for listening. Take care, have fun, and don't forget to play.